Are you age 64 and dreaming of retirement? Tips, strategies, and action steps to improve your retirement. Next on Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Clint Hunt-Rods and Lauren Merkel. They're both certified financial fiduciaries. Lauren is also a retirement income certified professional and a certified financial planner. Clint has a PhD. Today we're talking to you if you're age 64 and dreaming of retirement. Clint, you sit down with people all the time of various ages, but you talk to people who are 64 as well. What's their mindset as they get close to retirement?
Yeah, when you're in that 64 time frame, you're starting to realize that, hey, people around me are retiring. Maybe my coworkers are starting to go. I've got friends who are retiring, and you're starting to think more about what retirement could look like to you. We ask you at 55, what does retirement look like? You don't always know. But when you're 64, you started to have a good sense of what that lifestyle is going to look like, and you're starting to think about it more and more every day.
Yeah, you're in this mindset where you've worked for 30 plus years. Your kids a lot of times are out of the house. Also, you might be having some grandkids that are coming along and you want to spend some more time with them. You're excited about all of that, but you're also kind of maybe worried sometimes, Lauren.
Yeah, because you're 1 year out from retiring and you've never retired before. So there's all these different moving parts that you've never really been exposed to, and the pressure starts to build. We say you get one chance to get it right, because many of the retirement decisions that you have to make oftentimes are permanent decisions. There's not a lot of redos. Things like the usual suspect concerns, like what do you do with Social Security? You're switching from probably a group healthcare plan at 65. You need to switch over to Medicare when you retire, but also just the otherwise rather mundane type of decisions, like how much money can you take from your investments when it comes into your checking account monthly? Does it come once a month? Does it come on the 15th, the 20th? Can you change the amount? Can you change it? All of these questions that we get as people really start to inch towards that goal line of retirement start to pop into mind, which just makes the pressure that much greater.
And there's probably two ways to enter retirement. One is with a plan that shows you what you're going to do for all that. And one is hoping you have enough, kind of guessing, taking out a certain amount and hoping it lasts as long as you do.
Yeah, a lot of times families will take kind of a short-term view. I just want to make these decisions over this next year. That doesn't always work out great. We want to think about a more longer-term view. Let's take a look at an example. And in this particular case, we've got Jill as our example. She's age 64, planning to retire just 1 year from now. As Jill starts to think about all those decisions that are in front of her, she's not really thinking about a longer-term view. She's more so thinking just short-term, right in front of me. I know I need to make this decision. I think this is the right decision, or maybe I'm guessing that I hope this is the right decision. And let's just walk through some of the things that are in front of her. So the first one she has is that Social Security decision. In her mind, she knows that her full retirement age is 67, and she thinks, well, that's a pretty solid benefit at 67. It's about $27.50 per month for the rest of her life. That feels pretty good, so she decides, I think I'll plan on taking Social Security at 67, her full retirement age, maybe not really even realizing that she could elect as soon as 62 and can get growth on that benefit if she waits all the way out until age 70. She's thinking more narrowly, I know my full retirement age is 67, that's what I'm going to do. Jill's really fortunate to have a pension. Only about a quarter of those individuals that are retiring today do have a fixed pension, and Jill knows that that benefit is going to be $2,500 a month for the rest of her life, and so she's just going to plan to take that on a monthly basis, because she knows when she adds Social Security and the pension together, that gives her a really solid base to meet her monthly expenses, which she's estimating to be about $5,500 per month. She knows that she's just a couple $100 away through the current guaranteed income by taking Social Security at 67 and taking her pension on a monthly basis. She's really close to meeting her monthly expenses. So she thinks this is probably going to work out great, but just kind of making those decisions one-off in a siloed approach, she doesn't realize maybe the larger picture, which is a few years down the road. Let's think about 15 years down the road. Now Jill's 80. What we show is that a projection would be that she has about $175,000 left of her spendable retirement assets. Over time, her expenses have grown, and she didn't really account for that and that impact over the long run. Now, Jill's got longevity on her side. Her family has all lived into their 90s. She's planning to do so as well. And in her case, she finds that as she depletes those assets later in her 80s, she'll actually probably run out of money around 86. And as Jill thinks about this, she's thinking, wow, this is not the outcome that I desire, that I want. And so we can look at those decisions that she made and make just a few small alterations to it. with a more longer term and more holistic approach, now she might find that she could make some different decisions and improve that outcome of running out of money at age 86. Let's take a look at those. The first one is Social Security. Instead of relying on her spendable assets for the first 2 years of retirement, now Jill's saying, okay, I'm gonna actually turn on Social Security right when I retire, have that continuation of steady income. She's also thinking, and that would be about $2,300 per month, again, guaranteed for the rest of her life. She's also got that pension decision. Now, for Jill's particular case, her company also offers the lump sum payout. And she kind of thought, I like that stability of that monthly income guaranteed. Didn't really even evaluate the lump sum potential. But if she takes a longer view, she would find that that actually could be the best way to utilize that asset, because the payback on her pension is about an 18-year payback. It's pretty high, and so she might be better served to take that pension lump sum, and that equates to about $540,000 that's now going to be added to her investable assets. When it comes to her expenses, taking a deeper dive, Jill actually finds that over the next 10 years, her expenses aren't going to be $5,500 forever. She's going to find that she's got a lot of trips that she wants to do in those first 10 years of retirement, after which she knows her expenses are going to start to trim back a little bit. And she also knows that her mortgage is going to drop off. So in a deeper dive, thinking of a more long-term view approach, she knows that her expenses at $5,500 are going to continue to go up. But as those expenses drop off, she'd find that 10 years from now, she's actually going to be more about $4,700 per month as her expenses. And then that $4,700 will continue to climb throughout the rest of her retirement. Now, just making those few short changes, what we can see is that it's a very, very different outcome for Jill. All things similar, just taking that pension lump sum, taking Social Security sooner, and then thinking about a really good dive of her expenses, she finds that now at age 80, she actually has $800,000 of spendable assets still remaining. This puts her in a position compared to the 175 where she feels a lot better about being at age 80, having those type of assets that she can rely on to continue the rest of her life. We go out to age 90. Remember, before she was running out of money at 86, now out to age 90, which again, Jill believes she's got longevity on her side. She wants to plan for this 90 and age 100 part of her plan. Taking that longer term view, now she has an outcome of having still about $600,000 left of spendable assets at age 90 to be able to draw from for some of those later in life costs that are ultimately going to rear their head. So taking that longer term view approach makes a very big difference in the outcome for Jill's particular case.
Clint, that example perfectly illustrated the power of planning on so many different levels. I mean, probably the most important level is if Jill didn't put that plan together, she would not have identified the decisions that she could have made. She wouldn't have known that she was going to run out of money in her early 80s until it was too late to make changes to the plan. She wouldn't have realized there was a more optimal pension decision, a more optimal Social Security decision, but because she went through the planning, she realized that what was initially her goal or plan probably would have been better suited with different strategies. And then she turned it in from running out of money in her early 80s to having over $800,000 surplus much later down the road. So powerful for Jill, not only to be able to live the lifestyle that she wants to live, but having confidence as she is making those permanent decisions going to retirement.
Yeah, and they were somewhat small changes. It's not like you told Jill she had to work 3 more years or told Jill she had to get another part-time job. You just said, let's make a few different changes to that. Also, the takeaway for me is it's not too late if you're 64. Jill did this at 64, and look what better position she put herself in for retirement just a year later.
Absolutely. She's got a lot of those decisions still out there. Now's a great time for her to get that plan together. And if you think, maybe if she didn't have that longer term view, she might be more inclined to say, well, I'm going to run out of money at 86. I need to keep working for another year, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, you can see that having that shorter term view, she could maybe feel like, I don't know if I can ever retire.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in seeing that play out. We're going to continue to talk about some of the action steps you can take at age 64. Plus, we'll answer a question that we got recently during our Journey to Retirement workshop next. It's time for your journey, your questions. This is when we answer questions that we've received recently during our online Journey to Retirement workshop. We got the statement from Barb, and here's what Barb had to say. I feel like we spent our life saving in 401ks and IRAs. Now at 69, we're thinking we should have been doing Roths. RMDs will up our income and our Medicare costs. You guys can both understand what Barb is feeling.
We can relate to that really well. Probably the biggest piece of feedback that we get from people who attend the Journey or some of the other workshops we put on is, I wish I would have known that when I was making those decisions. So here's Barb. She's age 69, and it sounds like she's still kind of contributing to her plans, and she's wondering, should I continue to do that or incorporate this Roth strategy into her overall plan? Well, we'd really have to dive deep into Barb's situation to really answer that. However, it is definitely worth considering because she could be right. At RMD age, which is when she is mandated to start taking distributions from these pre-tax accounts, it could push her into a higher tax bracket, and it could increase the premiums that she pays for her Medicare. And at that point in time, she has very little control over it. The good news is, however, Barb, is you still have 4 years to incorporate some strategies. And that could be if you're still contributing to plans, look at the Roth side, see if that is what makes the most sense from a current and future tax liability situation. But also you could look at engaging in Roth conversions if it makes sense as well. And what the Roth conversions would do from an RMD standpoint is decrease the overall value that they would have underneath their accounts that require distribution, which means it could control better the Medicare premiums that they would have from 73 to the rest of their retirement. So good news, Barb, you have time, and there's a lot of strategies you can look at. Now is the time to take a look to see what you can implement to really gain control over your retirement tax bill.
In Barb's 69, it's not too late. But the gap is closing, the window is closing. I met with a couple yesterday, they were 64, and that's the topic of the show today is 64, what should I be thinking about when it comes to retirement planning? That's a great time to be thinking about that. So the sooner it is that you can implement that proactive tax plan, ultimately the better. We always say is every single December 31 that goes by without a proactive tax plan, you could be missing out on an opportunity, especially in the current tax rate environment that we're in and is likely changing in the next few years. You want to be looking at what that proactive tax plan is for you and making sure you're implementing as soon as possible so you don't have those unintended consequences. Like the family that I was talking to yesterday for the first time, they were actually going to get kicked up 2 tax brackets once RMDs came in, which was going to start to increase their Medicare premium because IRMA is going to be in effect for that particular situation.
Which is really bad news when they found out, but it's really good news because now they can take control over it. Yep. And that's what the essence of retirement planning is. Let's take control, let's turn uncertainty into certainty, and it's going to allow that retirement transition to be much smoother.
And at 64, retiring just in a year, when we think back to the different examples we've looked at, that family has about 10 years to be able to implement that proactive tax plan, make a huge impact, and take a lot more control over their tax picture rather than just letting it play out on the IRS's terms.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways of Barb's situation is she's age 69. And it's not too late for her. There's still a lot of opportunity for her. So that gives a lot of confidence to those who are age 64, the basis of today's show, because they have even more time to implement these strategies. But I think oftentimes once people get a couple years from retiring, they feel like it's maybe too late. It's too late to really put a plan together, too late to really implement effective strategies. And that's not the case, not only if you're 64, but also if you're like Barb, who's 69.
And I have to think that Barb's comment came in during the portion of the workshop where you guys are working with John and Sue. So what happens in the workshop is there's a hypothetical couple. Our retirement planners take them on a journey to retirement. You help them make a lot of decisions. This one has to do with tax planning, and John and Sue do use a Roth conversion, and it's really powerful. And I think Barb was probably watching that saying, hey,
she's like, hey, wait, can I do that?
I want that same tax savings that John and Sue experienced in the workshop.
Because John and Sue, the outcome of that is they save over $100,000 off of the retirement tax bill. So Barb and everybody else who's watching that workshop is like, how can I get some of that? And that's exactly what you should be thinking, because there are strategies like Roth conversions or tax loss harvesting or contribution strategies you can incorporate. And one of the benefits of that online Journey to Retirement workshop is we show you the outcome, but we also show you how John and Sue go through the analysis go through the different options that they have at their disposal, how they select the strategies, what those strategies are, so you can take those strategies and implement them effectively for your retirement plan.
Okay, you might be wondering, how do I learn more? How do I meet John and Sue and see how they do this Roth conversion thing and save all of this money? Well, it's by signing up for our Journey to Retirement workshop. It's pretty easy. All you do is text Journey to the phone number that is on your screen right now. Then we will text you back and get you signed up. Then you can find out when our next Journey to Retirement workshops are, sign up for a time and date that works for you, and get comfortable, because you're gonna spend a little bit less than 2 hours seeing how John and Sue plan a comprehensive retirement. It's not just taxes, Clint, there's a lot more involved.
Yeah, and it's great to walk through a hypothetical couple so that they can start to see what all goes into that more comprehensive retirement planning approach. So thinking about that income plan, how do we optimize a pension or Social Security? You know, what do we do from an investment standpoint? How much risk should we be taking as we near retirement or make that transition? Healthcare. What do we do from healthcare, moving away from our employer plans, which we know so well, trying to figure out what that gap healthcare or Medicare can look like? And then also starting to think about, hey, as our legacy starts to take more shape, what are some of the goals that we have from that standpoint, and how do we start to think about what that can look like?
Yeah, it's a fun and engaging Journey to Retirement. Again, text Journey to the number on your screen. That number will be on your screen throughout this show, so you can text anytime in the next few minutes. We're going to continue talking about some of the action steps you can take at age 64 next. Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Clint Hunrods and Lauren Merkel, and we're talking about action steps, things you can do at age 64 to improve your retirement. So let's get right to it. So Jill, she had two different outcomes. One outcome, Clint, she ran out of money at age 86. Nobody wants that. The second outcome, she ended up with $500,000 plus at age 90. So let's talk about the action steps that Jill took to get to that second outcome. And the first one is she did a complete Social Security analysis.
Yeah, when she starts to look at that larger picture, she finds out waiting till 67 and growing that benefit doesn't make sense when you compare it to the amount that she's going to need from her spendable assets sooner in retirement. Now, that's the right decision for Jill. Doesn't mean it's the right decision for you. So you really want to do that larger, more comprehensive planning approach to see, does it make sense to wait on my Social Security benefit, or would I be better off to go to that right away as a continuation after that traditional paycheck turns off? I know I've got at least a portion of my income need that's going to be covered through that Social Security benefit. Another thing to keep in mind is that Jill is single, and the decisions for her could be different for a married couple when it comes to Social Security. That's really, you want to take a household view. Not only how do I maximize my individual benefit, how do I think about it across a household view, where at some point down the road, if one of the two in a couple passes away, the smaller benefit's going to go away, only the larger one remains. That could lead you down a different Social Security decision, because we want to optimize it in a different way if you're married versus if you're just looking at that single benefit.
And Jill's action step number 2 was that she took a comprehensive or a closer look at her pension options.
In this example, probably the most impactful analysis that Jill actually took, because what she was thinking is, let's just take the monthly payment, security, guarantee. She knows she's going to receive, what was it, $2,700?
$2,500.
$2,500 a month for the rest of her life. There's a lot of security that comes with that. However, once she did the analysis, she realized every single month she received that, it was going to take her 17 years of receiving the $2,500 a month to break even for the $540,000 lump sum that she could have taken, and then had way more control over the income that she had. And also, Clint, you mentioned she's single, so this is really impactful when it comes to the pension decision, because that $2,500 a month was based on just her life, which means she passes away, that $540,000 minus the monthly amount she has taken now goes away. Her kids don't get it, her other beneficiaries, nobody it goes back to the pension company, whereas she takes control of the $540,000. She uses it to deliver the income she needs from her lifestyle standpoint. She passes away, any of that $540,000 that's left over, now she gets to direct where that money goes. And in this case, Jill wanted to, whatever was left over, go to her kids. So not only did it help Jill immensely while she was alive, but it gave her way more control over her legacy plan as well.
And the last step that Jill took took with the help of a retirement planner was took a more long-term look at her expenses. And let's put that up on the screen again, because I thought this was eye-opening. A lot of people might have found this one kind of surprising. She had thought, I'm going to spend $5,500. That's where it's going to be. She maybe thought about inflation. But then a retirement planner kind of helped her look at this and go, wait a minute, what about your mortgage? Wait a minute, you're not going to travel as much 10 years in. And she really found that later in her retirement, she was only going to spend $4,700 a month.
Yeah, and it's different for every family. I mean, that's one thing that we want to make sure is your plan is going to be customized to you, because the lifestyle that you've been dreaming of in retirement is completely different than your neighbors, than your coworkers, than maybe a siblings. So we want to really put those numbers together and make sure we're identifying what expenses do you have today, how will those transition once you get into retirement? Are we going to spend more? Are we actually going to find that we're going to spend less? And every family's different when it comes to that. So what are some of those lifestyle goals that you have? What are the things that you want to do in retirement? And then over time, we might find that some of those go-go years where we're doing all those things with the new freedom and flexibility of that full schedule being open, is we're going to spend a little bit more. And we can plan for that. Let's plan for spending a little more, maybe the first 10, 12, 15 years of retirement. And then we know that might trend back down. Later in retirement, we always want to have those spendable assets like Jill had, or in that particular example, to be ready for some of those healthcare or long-term care expenses, where expenses later in those years of retirement could actually trend back up, not because she wants to spend on that, but because she's required to from a healthcare or long-term care standpoint.
And one specific action step that would really help you in your transition to retirement around the expenses is test drive it. If you're a year out from retiring and you think in retirement you might need to spend $4,700 a month, then test drive it. Live on $4,700 a month. See what that lifestyle feels like. Does that feel good to you? You're going to have way more confidence going into retirement if you know that $4,700 a month is going to provide the lifestyle you want. If it's not, you might as well know now, because you still have at least a full year that you can account for that, readjust your plan. And what this planning does, this test drive, is it eliminates the surprises that really can come up and bite you in a time frame that it might be too late to make changes.
And there are more action steps when it comes to planning for retirement, and you'll see them all play out in that Journey to Retirement workshop. The phone number that's been on your screen during the show, that's the number you text the word journey to. And then here's what happens. We reach back out to you, and then we start a conversation about when you can sign up for a workshop. We have several times and dates to choose from, and then you can get comfortable, Clint, because you're going to spend about an hour and 45, hour and 50 minutes learning about not only some of the stuff we talked about, but a whole lot of things that we didn't get to in today's show.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts when it comes to that transition into retirement. You want to make sure that you're accounting for all of them. And then you also start to see in that Journey to Retirement workshop how they integrate with each other. The decisions you make from an investment planning standpoint are going to impact your income delivery. Healthcare, as we talked about before, is going to be impacted by what your taxable income is. So all of these different components to that comprehensive retirement plan fit together. And as you start to think about that transition to retirement, you want to make sure you've got that comprehensive plan that accounts for all of that.
And we try to make it easy. It's as easy as a text. Then we have a text conversation. You can sit back, relax, and get ready to learn.
Sit back on the couch, relax, have some popcorn, maybe a glass of wine, and enjoy the information that can really make a big difference to you on your journey to and through retirement.
This is Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching. If you like this video, click here for more great content. Don't forget to subscribe to be connected with others just like you who are looking for engaging and entertaining retirement strategies.